Good morning. Welcome to Learn a Language. Now we are with our second unit of your 11th standard English reader, and we have already completed the first part of it, that is a prose piece that was an autobiographical one taken from The Unbeatable, written by Mary Kom, and you have got the title to be The Queen of Boxing. And as you went through it, by now you should have gone through it, and you would have found how suitable the title is. Now we move on to the second part of your second unit, and it happens to be a poem. I have been repeatedly telling you that poetry happens to be the most beautiful words arranged in the most beautiful possible way. There can be fun in it, there can be romantic thought in it, there may be glorifying of the beauty of nature in it, and sometimes it can be highly satirical also, laughing at the follies of the society. Sometimes the poem carries a humorous element, or it talks about, in a lighter way, it talks about the weaknesses of fellow beings, right? So the poem that has been prescribed for us in the second unit, in the second part, that it happens to be Ogden Nash's brilliant piece of poem, The Confessions of a Born Spectator. You know, what exactly is the psychology of a spectator? Have you ever thought of it? You know, we all have played the role of an audience, we have played the role of a witness, and you also should have played the role of a spectator. Who is a spectator? A person who sits and enjoys watching sports and games as a spectacle, as something to be a visual treat, rather a visual treat which should be enjoyed, right? And Ogden Nash gives you an insight into the psyche of a non-participating player. How can that be possible? If you are a player, you have to play, you have to take part, be it an athletic event or a sports event. Now, if you want to participate, you have to directly involve yourself in it. No. There is another kind of participation, you call it the passive participation. You are safe and sound in your place, you are you are a part of the spectators, you are in the stadium, you are happy with, you even become a fan of one of the players, you applaud at the right moment, you clap at the right moment, you whistle at the right moment, you jubilate at the right moment, and you do everything to cheer the person who is representing your spirit over there on the field. These two people have an entirely different psychology. The person who is actively taking part in the game and the person who is passively watching. Now, Ogden Nash gives you, as I told you, an insight into the psychology of a spectator who would rather like to take a back seat, who does not want to participate in the event, but nonetheless make the event a spectacular one by his appreciation of it. So he starts with the first stanza, where he beautifully says a little boy would grow up to be a champion, okay, a jockey, or he would play basketball or hockey, whatever may be the choice he has. He would have got his training, he would display his skills, and he would win the praise of everybody, right? He would have been complimented by everyone. But you turn around and ask me whether I am interested in doing any of these. I would like to tell you a secret. And you know what it is? I am happy to be what I am when the other one is happy to be what he is. You know, that's exactly how he introduces you to his confessions. Now, what could be the difference between confiding with somebody or confessing to someone? Now, when you confess something, there is a touch of guilt in you. There is a touch of remorse in you. There is a touch of sadness in you because you have not played your role properly. That's exactly why the sense of guilt compels you to go confess it to someone. Fine? Asking for an apology, asking for a pardon. Right. On the other hand, what do you mean by confiding to somebody? Confiding is sharing your secret, where there is no touch of guilt, there where you need not be regretful. You just would like to share something sorrowful that would have taken in place in your life, and you just need a shoulder to lean on and 2 ears to listen and a heart to understand. But here this is not confiding, it's rather confessing. So we understand that the poet himself is not very comfortable in being a spectator. Right. We move on to the second stanza, where he says, everybody wins the praise of the sports people or the athlete. They win the praise of everyone. People compliment, they jubilate, they congratulate them. It all looks so good. It's very good. I don't say no at all. But by nature, I am pretty bashful. I am very timid. I am very shy. Rather, I am a kind of an introvert. I do not want to appear in the public even if I am good at something. I do not want to be surrounded by people who compliment me, who praise me, and who jubilate over my victory, because I am bashful. I am a bit timid. I am shy. I am withdrawn. So I would rather stay back from this limelight. Don't draw me to limelight. But that doesn't mean that I do not appreciate people who are there in limelight. After all, they came all the way over there out of their own merit. I really appreciate them. Now, he moves on to the third stanza. Now, in every stanza, he gives you an account of various sport events and what really happens, right? You run a race, you fall down, you may break your crown, or you are there in the boxing ring and you bang somebody out and the person is knocked out and the person has to be carried out. In all these contexts, he really appreciates the winners, but nonetheless, he is equally happy to be a passive spectator, not in the context, staying outside the context just to play the role of an audience. Then he again goes on to the same thought. Now, people do get, they get applauded by everyone. You come to the limelight, you become really famous, you have your fan club. So everybody is very, very appreciative and everybody keeps on talking about you. It gives you a sense of goodness. You feel very happy about it, right? You become very enthusiastic to perform something better and create new records and break the old ones. Now, as this happens, right, you may come to the poet and ask him a question. Now, what could be the question? The question is, right, if you ask your reason and your ego, isn't your ego a bit hurt when nobody is there to praise you? Don't you feel very hurt when you go unnoticed, right? That happens to everybody. If that is the case, can't you allow your reason? Now, in that case, the poet comes to you and he tells you once again, if you allow my prudence, my wisdom, my sanity to speak for me and my ego, I don't mind having a bruised ego. I don't mind when people do not praise me. It's okay. But it's certainly not okay, right? My wisdom warns me, my prudence warns me from, come on, you are not meant to be an active sports person. So it's better you stay where you are and continue doing what you have been doing. So allowing my prudence and my ego, and when I allow these two people to argue for me, I have always known that my ego will get beaten and my prudence will win the show, and the prudence will protect me against taking part in something which I cannot perform properly. Fine. In the next stanza, Ogden Nash draws your attention to what really happens when a sports person is injured, right? It can be a broken knee or a twisted ankle or a broken wrist, whatever it is. Now, you can't just predict what kind of an accident would take place if you are there in the arena, if you are there in the sports field. Anything can happen, and every time you understand that something really happens, and from there is one call asking, is there any doctor up there in the stadium? There is always a question if anybody can come for the rescue of the person. Now, of course, in 2020 you do have everyone ready there so that most of the players do not suffer much of an injury or suffer from injury. Even if the person meets with an accident while playing, right, immediately the person gets some kind of a medical attention. That's not the case with Ogden Nash, who represents your 20th century, right? So he says, always whenever there is an accident, whenever there is some kind of a misfortune, and whenever you find the sports person being hurt, terribly hurt, fine, there is always a call asking, is there anybody on the stand, please? Is there anybody there amongst the spectators who can come out and help? If that is the case, I would rather be a champion of whom? Of people with modest physique, people who are not built for sports, people who do not have athletic make of body. I'm here as a singer, I'm a champion. I praise the people who are blessed rather with modest physique, people who are extremely ordinary, people who carry on with their body the body is suitable only to do things which are not very taxing. That's not the case with a sports person, that's not the case with an athlete. So the poet in a very humorous way suggests that he is here as a person who sings a praise of people who are blessed with modest, ordinary, common fitness of their body. Now coming to the last stanza, Ogden Nash, you really wonder. As I come to the last stanza, I would rather tell you what was his philosophy. He was a poet, an American poet who could create more than 500 verses of a lighter note. He was praised by everybody as a poet of humorous poetry. It's very easy, I wouldn't say easy, it's most becoming for most of the poets to write something of a serious note. But it warrants equally a great intellect to show people the serious side with a lighter touch to it. Looking at life is pretty serious, but living it in a lively way, asking you to look at the lighter side of life so that you laugh at yourself and you do not make much of an issue of certain things which happen in everybody's life. So here you find Ogden Nash to be a poet of lighter verses, and that's exactly why he finds a place in the postal stamp also. Right, coming back to the last stanza, now because I had to introduce the poet again strongly to you, when you come to the last stanza, there is so much of a different kind of philosophy. Because most of us fret and fume that we have not proved ourselves to anybody as somebody. Always we ask this question, are you somebody in particular? Are you somebody very significant? Are you an ordinary person or an extraordinary person? Fine. If you're an ordinary person, you just merge with the crowd as a faceless person who goes unnoticed, and most of the people even complain that the life lived by such ordinary people is not worth recording. But here, Ogden Nash says, no, certainly not. Each one has got a personal worth. If you are a player, great. If you are a sports person, great. If you represent yourself in athletics, you're praiseworthy. But that does not belittle, that does not make the other half, the people who sit there and cheer you up, as people of less significance. Each one has got his or her own merit. A great philosophy, invariably it goes unnoticed, and sometimes we even miss it deliberately. So we've come to the last stanza. He very happily says, athlete, he addresses you. He addresses the sports person. He says, athlete, he calls you, and then he tells, fine, I would drink on behalf of you, right? I would rather hold a cup of drink and say, I would, for your well-being, cheers for your well-being. I would pray for your well-being. I wish you good luck, good health. I would even go with you and sit and eat along with you, right? I can go along with you to the stadium, sit there and clap my hands, cheer you, praise you. Everything is very beautiful. I would even go buy a ticket for the match in which you represent your team. Everything is fantastic as long as you allow me to be a person who is a born spectator. Ask me to do anything for you, I would do willingly, gladly. That's exactly what a fan is meant for. That's what a fan delights in. But if you ask me to contest with you, if you ask me to stand as your rival or an opponent in a match or in a game, I'm extremely sorry, because I would again brush my memory and ask my reason anew. Once again, I will ask my reason to sit and analyze. Is it right to be a participating player or a passive player? My reason anew would tell me, fine, you should better be happy to allow the other person to be what he is and yourself to be what you are. Because the person who plays there is made of an entirely different substance. And you come as a package and you are made of an entirely different substance. You are here for appreciation. You are here for lauding somebody. You are here to play the role from the stadium, that is from the stands, as a passive spectator, or as he puts it, a born spectator. And the poem, as I would like to tell you again, it's a confession. Confession is different from confiding. You don't find any sense of guilt in the poet. He's pretty happy to be what he is. Seldom you come upon such people, people who are plain, ordinary, Nothing extraordinary, nothing significant. But what is so extraordinary about such ordinary people, like Ogden Nash makes mention of, is they are comfortable in their skin. They are comfortable under their skin, right? You may have thousands of opinions about them, but they don't care. They are comfortable to be what they are, and they know they can draw respect as they are. Fine? So this poem is also followed by, you have your glossary, which again extends itself to asking you questions on the comprehension part of it. So you have questions where you have to give an answer in 1 or 2 sentences, then develop it into 2 or 3 sentences. Of course, you have paragraph questions also. As we found in Unit 1, here also you may have your annotations. Remember, the annotation passage is, you yourself can draw out passages from the poem which are worthy of being annotated, and for which you have to remember, can this particular sentence accommodate easily some 4 or 5 strong questions. Now, what do I mean by strong questions? Questions which do not overlap. That is, you give an answer for the first question, and let not the answer be carried away to the second one also. So make them strong questions where it tests for an information. So the questions can be informative, and sometimes the sentences are pretty suggestive. From where you draw an answer, it becomes an inferential answer, right? And sometimes you do have challenging questions because you find poems happen to be loaded with layers of meaning. At the surface level, you may get a meaning. When you go in for the second reading, you will really surprise yourself asking this question: how did I miss this meaning when I went for the first reading? That's exactly what happens. So the second reading goes for a deeper level, beyond collecting information, beyond going for inferences. You go in for an elevated level of learning a piece of poem that happens to be interpretative level. You try to understand the poem from an entirely different perspective and get to know the philosophy. Once you have mastered these 3 stages, automatically you go on to the 4th one, where you evaluate the poem using your personal experience in life, and also looking at the whole poem. As I have already mentioned, literature is a kind of a window, one of the windows in a room, and through that particular window, when you look at something, you will get the glimpse of what exactly the poet is trying to show you, right? So we are very happy with Ogden Nash, because I fall into the category of a born spectator, and I was really happy when I read through the poem, because here is a person who could voice for me. Not that I don't like sports. I do love sports. Above all, I would like to be a sportive person also, maintaining the emotional balance when goodness and evil are juxtaposed, or your happiness and sadness are put together, trying to balance and trying to understand this is exactly what life is made of. And I would also like to play the role of a spectator, allowing the scene to go by, sitting not in a cozy setup, sitting there, getting ready to appreciate somebody performing something which I cannot. Not with regret, but with happiness. You just clap your hands and appreciate the person who is doing something over there, right? Thank you. Thanks a lot for listening. Thank you.